Give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Global Morning here on Global Television. My name is Godwin Sunday. Interestingly, today is Ash Wednesday. That is a day where we begin the commencement of Lent, which is a fasting period for Christian faithfuls. Of course, the Muslim are already fasting even in this period, and I think today marks your day 6 into the Muslim fast. And of course, the Christians are joining in the fast, which today marking the Lent, and it's very interesting because both Muslim and Christians are waiting on God even on this period and trusting Him for a lot of things. Well, it's Wednesday, even here on Global Television. A lot of things to talk about even across the country. We're going to be looking across Osun State, move straight to River State, and also talking about all the pressing issues in the country. Looking at newspapers reviews and try to help you make sense with some of the conversations. Of course, we have our guests that are already waiting to join in the various conversation. But one conversation that has been the front burner of everybody's lip right now is that yesterday was the conversation around the Akwa Ibom State's former governor of Akwa Ibom State that was arrested arraigned by the EFCC over money laundering charges to the tune of about 700 billion naira. Speaking of the person of former governor of Akwa Ibom State, the person of Emmanuel Udom. And we'll look at all of those conversations this morning, and we'll try to look at ultimatum for the River State election have come, and it's almost gone. As Governor Fubara been able to bow down to the oppression, has he been able to shield his sword and come back to the drawing board. We'll look at all of that even today on the table. Of course, Governor Adeleke of Osun State is not spared in the conversation because we've seen a lot of consultation going on in Osun State, and we'll look at all of that. Not forgetting also that in River State, INEC is also the RIEC in River State, which is their River State Electoral Commission, is calling for local government election based on the Supreme Court's judgment. Will the election hold? Will it not hold? Will there be an appeal to what the Supreme Court have said? Of course, the Supreme Court happens to be the highest law body in the country. Will there be an appeal to this? We'll look at all of this and also know if this will get to the West African Court of Appeal and see what will happen thereafter. But all of these conversations and more we'll be looking at on this table. Not forgetting that even today on Global Morning, we'll be looking at very pressing issues that borders on Lagos State, where the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly have stepped down for Obasa, who was the former speaker. Now the present speaker, of course, Melinda, had to resign, and of course, majority of Lagosians are not happy over that decision because to them the majority of people majority of the House voted into that office, and she was supposed to represent and stand for the majority. But why did she resign? Are there other issues behind the scene? Have GAC, which is the Governor's Advisory Council of Lagos State, been able to influence a decision to step down as a Speaker of Lagos State? Or this is just another clout for Lagos State to be on the front burner of the news? But we'll look at all of this conversation even here on a Global Morning. Well, when Global Morning returns, we will talk about some of these issues. Please stay with us as the show continues in a moment.
know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back. So let's delve into the first conversation, which is the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, and the person of Udom Emmanuel, has been detained by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, amid serious allegations of misappropriation of public funds totaling approximately 700 billion naira. Recall that Udom Emmanuel, who governed Akwa Ibom State from 2015 to 2023, was invited to the Economic and Financial Crimes headquarters in Abuja on Tuesday at around 12:30 p.m. to answer queries concerning suspected money laundering, fund diversion, and related financial inappropriations. According to sources, the summons followed a formal petition lodged by the civil society group Network Against Corruption and Trafficking. Of course, we'll look at this issue holistically even here in the studio. But first time, I'm not doing this alone. I'm doing this with my colleague here in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Oyi.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here as always, Godwin. It's a great day, midweek already, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's a chance to just do a review and reassess how much we have achieved so far, and then, of course, strategize better for the next few days remaining in the week. Incidentally, we're starting this conversation with corruption allegations against the former governor. I scratched my head for a second because we thought with the arrests, or at least the invitation, I should say, of the former governor of Delta State, talking about Okowa.
That was 4 months ago.
Yes, exactly. When Ife Okowa was invited, we thought that would be the more like the icing on the cake. It can't go beyond that. Maybe we're just going to move forward and start now talking and thinking about 2027. But it is interesting to know that some of these former governors are still under the radar of the anti-graft agency, the EFCC in particular, in this case. Akwa Ibom is one state that inspires many people. You can't take that away. People see Akwa Ibom as a classical case of how an entity, whether a family, a community, an organization, a state, or whatever it is, can move from 0 to 100 in the manner of speaking. Because if you look at Akwa Ibom from 1999 to some point, and then what happened from that point till today, you realize that there's a huge dichotomy, which means that Akwa Ibom has systematically developed over time. Yes, we can give the credit to this governor here, that governor there, but we all know for a fact that Akwa Ibom is not where it used to be. But this is more like a minus, going back to a former governor who had done 8 years in office between 2015 and 2023, now being invited by the EFCC and ultimately detained. We're saying former governors who went to the EFCC office here in Abuja or at their zonal offices, answered a couple of questions, left there before close of business. But this is different. And we know for a fact that if the EFCC decides to detain someone against whom allegations have been leveled, it means there is scientific evidence that that person needs to be investigated further. All right. And from the way this is going, apparently we're looking at the volume of the money being mentioned. We're looking at some 700 billion.
700 billion.
Yes, that's a whole lot of money for any country in the world, including in particular, as it is in this case, for Nigeria.
Someone said that's the total budget for Ekiti State.
Okay, again, that is profound. All right, but you see, this is still at the level of allegation until they are substantiated in a competent court of law. However, in the meantime, it's troubling because there's a barrage of former governors, former members of the House of Representatives, former senators, former this, former that, who have been accused of all of these things, including former ministers, party chieftains, and what have you. It doesn't tell well. Yes, of course, the former governor's minders and his handlers, media advisors will come and say, well, the governor is unperturbed about it, the former governor is unperturbed, he's not bothered about it. These are just all in they are the figment of the imagination of the political detractors of the governors. But the question is this really about the governor, or the former governor, and those who are his detractors, or those he considers his political foes? No, it's about the good people of the great state of Akwa Ibom. How were they served? Because now reports are saying that the former governor, I should say, received about 3 trillion all through his tenure of 8 years from the federal allocation accounts. 3 trillion is a whole lot of money. No matter how intense the inflation numbers, what the inflation numbers are saying, 3 trillion naira is a whole lot of money, even in dollar terms, for example. So now, what are the concerns? The concerns are that first, there's the allegation that the governor left behind about $500 billion when he was leaving office. That's about 500 billion. That's what they left behind, right? And then the governor also left behind hundreds of billions of monies, obligation to contractors, those who had executed projects for Akwa Ibom State's governor. Of course, we know how, government, we know how these things work. Once you take office as a governor, the assets and liabilities of that state become yours.
Yeah.
And that's one of the bases on which we say government or governance is a continuum. All right. So you can say, yes, the assets are ours, now that I've taken over as a governor, but the liabilities, I don't have a hand in it. You can't do that. Now, what's the implication? The implication is, if these allegations hold true, if there are anything to go by, it stands to reasoning that the incumbent governments, all right, under the leadership of Pastor Eno, will have to deal with, all right, whatever liabilities were left behind. And I know those in the PDP, for example, will say, well, it's just the APC or whatever other party that's trying to distract the former governor, and by so doing, get at... politicians always have their ways around this, but in the final analysis, how much of facts are we going to find, and how will the EFCC use these facts in bringing justice to this very case?
Interesting conversation. But then again, what we ask in this particular case, just a few days after the handshake with the president between Godswill Akpabio,
right,
Udom, and Umo Eno, just a few days after, we're seeing EFCC go after the governor. It looks like political witch hunting.
Now you sound like a politician.
Okay. So, but then the fear for some of us is the case of EFCC arraigning people and not actually seeing those cases.
Real-time prosecution.
We've seen 11 of those cases still hanging. That of Obiano still hanging. We've seen that of Rochas Okorocha, even Godswill Akpabio, got that of Tinubu, that of the Zamfara State, Yari in Zamfara State, and all of those cases
former governors
still hanging. We've not seen any reasonable conclusion.
There's still the Okowa's case, 1 point something trillion. That's all-time high.
Just November here.
That's all-time high, because no governor or former governor or any public officer, to the best of our knowledge, has been accused of such an amount in this country.
Yeah.
Upwards of ₦1 trillion. But I think the point you're making is that there's need to do a thorough investigation. There's need to have the facts.
Even before coming out to state this, that okay, you're suspecting that the governor, or you're alleging that the governor is misappropriated 400 billion, 200 billion, 1.2 billion.
Have you done due diligence?
Have you done due diligence?
Right.
Because this, to a very large extent, will help the EFCC to be able to be on track to a very large extent. People take the EFCC serious.
Right.
Because knowing fully well that this is another case that will be swept under the carpet, just the way it appears on the surface, initial gra-gra. Then as it begins to go on, we won't hear anything about the case. Just the one Obiano's case was this high. Every paper around, as soon as Obiano stepped out of office and handed over to Soludo, we saw
picked up at the airport.
It was literally picked up at the airport, and the conversation was everywhere that he was not going to let go. They're not going to release him. What's going on with the Obiano's case right now? It has become another case that we don't know if it's going to reappear in the nearest future. So all of these cases hanging and pending around really calls for concern. But one thing that is very disturbing again is that the way EFCC go about the fraudsters, the so-called Yahoo boys, I wish the same way, the same pace can be also used, can be meted on politicians to be able to discharge justice, which is a primary concern of the EFCC, and that as enshrined in the EFCC Act of 2024.
I think if you will, maybe I just come in for a second. We're dealing with a whole lot with regards to how our laws work. I've spoken to lawyers over the years, and they say that our laws are not problematic. The Nigerian laws don't have a problem. In fact, they even say this call for constitutional amendment, constitutional review, digital constitution, whip up a new one, all right, it's even misplaced. Because they say if you're asking for a brand new constitution, the question is, what have you done with the current constitution as it stands? Have we obeyed the laws in this one as it stands? So, I mean, the good book says, he who is faithful over little is faithful over much. So, if you can't do the much that is enshrined in this constitution, what, therefore, are the guarantees that you would do anything meaningful with the provisions contained in a new constitution? That's one conversation. As of today, the concern around the rule of law is still very palpable, because you have a bunch of politicians running around the whole place, not obeying the rule of law. It is 2025, but you're wondering if politicians know what time it is. You see here politicians, including elected officials at their highest level, being ordered by the courts on a certain matter, and they tell you, well, our party, our lawyers are still studying the judgment. Some of them even go ahead, I mean, they take it further by line to say, we have not seen the certified true copy of the judgment. So they'll say, well, we have not been served, we have not been this, we have not been that. There's a, as we say in pidgin parlance, see-finish elements in the way we treat this country. Fact of the matter is, I strongly believe there's a sort of marriage, so to speak, between compliance, if you like, or obedience to the rule of law and patriotism. You can't be patriotic in a country where you are not ready to obey the laws. So do we obey the laws? That's number one. Even the EFCC itself, as an anti-graft agency of the federal government, as an institution,
we've seen them flaunt,
has been lambasted by judges in our lifetime in this country. I mean, since 2004, we've seen that happen in front of us, under our very nose, about how that they also did not comply with their own acts, not even the ground norm, the constitution now, their own acts. Of course, the EFCC has an act of 2004 that establishes it. They don't even comply with it in some cases. In the last 2-3 years, what has been the cry most about the EFCC? It is about their modus. How that the EFCC has been accused, and there has been a preponderance of evidence of invading places, business places, corporate entities in some cases, residential homes, barging into people's homes, where you have families, where you have couples and things like that. So what's the point? He who must come to equity must come with clean hands. And then that takes us right to the next conversation, which you brilliantly raised about due diligence. What we've seen over time is more of media trial. So you pick up Mr. XYZ or Mrs. ABC, and then you bring them to the front pages of newspaper, you bring them to television, you bring them to your X handle, your Facebook pages, and what have you. And then the whole place is agog. There's razzmatazz about that person and all of the issues around them. And the next thing we know is everything just starts to abate. I mean, the heat gets doused, and we move on to the next victim, so to speak. Question is that how you fight corruption? There has to be a systematic approach to this thing. The method has to be scientific, has to comply 100%. I mean, no half measures with the Constitution, and by extension, the extant laws that also establish the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And then you now talk about another point that you highlighted, which has to do with, can we not bring to the prosecution of PEPs, politically exposed people, that same energy that we use in pursuing Yahoo boys? Can we not create a bit of equilibrium? We're seeing almost every other day, you're seeing on the front pages of newspaper, everywhere across social media, 71 Yahoo boys arrested in Benin, 25 Yahoo boys arrested in Ibadan, 18 Yahoo boys arrested in Kano.
You're starting from Benin, so
well, trying to do this at home, and justice for the next door, right? But the real question here is, can we up the game? You see, the EFCC must be respected. In fact, I dare say the EFCC has to be feared in the overall interest of Nigeria as a nation. But the question is, will the EFCC be feared just because of media trial, or will the EFCC earn its own respect? You see, a sitting governor must come to a point where he's already concerned. What will happen to me if I don't behave in office? Former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan said recently that once Nigerians begin to hold politicians to account, they will stop their bad behavior. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if a sitting governor knows that every other governor before them, whether in their state or in any other states, was subjected to the rule of law, was dealt with according to the law after they left office, there's a pretty good chance, at least there's a higher probability, that the incumbent governor will behave themselves.
Well, interesting conversation so far. We'll go for a short break right now. When we come back, we'll be talking newspaper reviews. Please stay with us here on Global Morning.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, time to turn to the papers quickly for you this morning. First port of call is the Daily Trust's newspaper. We begin with the headlines just immediately beneath the name Mass for you. Top left, it says, police narrate how ex-immigration CG Pradang died. This is a very sad tale. You find the details here on, let's see, there should be page 20 of the Daily Trust newspaper. EFCC arrests Akwa Ibom Governor Udom. We just had some time walking you through the highlights of that matter a while ago. Boko Haram insurgents kill police inspectors' sons in Yobe, not sons in Yobe. That's pretty sad. Boko Haram insurgents kill police inspectors' sons in Yobe, that's northeast Nigeria. And then the Star headline reads, killings of northern drivers in southeast unacceptable. ACF is the one to whom that is credited. That headline is accompanied by two riders. The first one reads, urges FG to tame attacks, demands compensation for victims. DSS invites Daily Trust's reporters over story. Well, that's not the first time. But let's see a few more headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust real quick for you. Tinubu reappoints Ogunjimi as AGF. Tinubu reappoints Ogunjimi as AGF. That's the Accountant General of the Federation. That appointment was formally announced yesterday. What's more, 20-year-old man allegedly beats mother to death. A 20-year-old man allegedly beats mother to death. Wonder shall never end, but this is one that is on the extreme, apparently. We are not enemies. Shekarau speaks on relationship with Kwankwaso. Of course, politicians are never enemies. It's a matter of interest. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies. 22 die in Ogun, Kogi, Oyo auto crashes. 22 die in Ogun, Kogi, Oyo auto crashes. Those are basically the headlines from the front page of the Daily Trust. Let's turn quickly to the Nation newspaper, and Godwin has those headlines for us.
Yeah, so for the Nation's newspaper, nothing much on the Nation's newspaper.
Just a single headline.
Just a single headline. And it says that First Bank holds groundbreaking ceremony for new state-of-the-art eco-friendly headquarters. And it has in front of it there a very magnificent building of First Bank. That's the new headquarters which will be commissioned today. That's just as on
right.
On the Nation.
And the Punch has pretty much the same thing on the front page of the Punch newspaper now. Pretty much the same thing. But let's see one here. Just basically one report. One headline here on the front page of the Punch. It says, Rivers crisis. That's your kicker. Niger Delta groups threaten violence as budget ultimatum expires today. There's a rider there for you, but basically you find details on page 2. You know, the Rivers issue is what we spent time yesterday discussing on Big Talk. One of the concerns we raised was the 48-hour ultimatum that lapses today, given to Governor Siminalayi Fubara by the newly constituted, or if you like, the reinstated House of Assembly. So I asked my guest very pointedly, I said, would it not be is it not the case that the House of Assembly is essentially, ambushing the governor, or if you want to put it differently, arm twisting the governor by giving him a 48-hour period to submit this or represent this budget? His response was basically to say that, the other time the governor did a presentation to a handful of members of the House of Assembly in Rivers State, it just took him a few hours to make that happen. So why does he need a longer time than 2 days to do that now? But we're watching. Things are not jumping off business-wise already today. So let's see what happens in the course of business. Let's see whether or not the governor will comply with this ultimatum. Let's also see what that compliance will be like. But what Nigerians and indeed the good people of Rivers State are expecting is that there's no confrontation. Of course, the governor is bound by the Constitution to present budget. And on the basis of that state constitution, the members of the House of Assembly in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, have an obligation that they owe to the Rivers people, all right, to do the needful in terms of playing their oversight function, legislative role, ensuring that they scrutinize the budget, take care of all the core elements, and so on and so forth. I'm sure every other thing will fall in place going forward. But let's see what the Vanguard, quite loaded with headlines this morning, has for us.
Yeah, so we'll begin with the first one. Just as a National Assembly positioning Nigerian for $1 trillion economy by 2030. You find that on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. We also have power generation hit 5,713 megawatts TCN. Well, that's interesting. When you find that story, you can find that read on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. Ogoni Masob 31 groups demand justice for Sarawiwa Now, probably this is an afterthought of after the Buhari, probably Babangida's book launch. A lot of groups are calling for a lot of things, even this period. We have a story here. It says oil price declined to 73.5 per barrel, threatens budget 2025 revenue target. You can find that read on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. We have a star story here that says Rivers crisis, leaders INC talk tough. It has a rider here that says the Joe Nation wants against impeachment of Fubara. It has another rider that follows, says Apex Court's judgment parochial. Another rider there says wants it guarantee peace in Niger Delta if the tension escalates. So Joe Youth are warning seriously even in Niger Delta right now, and saying that if you touch Fubara, of course you're touching the entire Joe Nation.
More like the governor is the apple of our eye.
I like the way you put that. Well, we have a story here. Say Khan opposes calls for Akpabio's resignation. Well, you can find out that it's on alleged assault harassment, page 12 of the Vanguard newspaper. And we have a story here just below the star story here. It says 16 burns to death as gas cylinder explodes in vehicle. You can find that story on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. Nigerians deepens trade investment with 5 countries, Oduwole. You can find that story also on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. Insecurity will subject Okite boxes to forensic analysis, Soludo. Well, you find that story on page 11 of the Vanguard newspaper. Lagos Assembly. No plans to compel Obasa to resign Lagos APC. Well, this is a bit troubling because we just reading yesterday that Malinda,
Miranda, former Madam Speaker,
she has resigned, and here we have said no plans to compel Obasa to resign. We'll see how this plays out in the coming days, because Lagos State stories is one very funny story. What you plan versus what you get.
Right. Or should we say what you order versus what you get?
What you order versus what you get in Lagos State. Also, we have a story here on sports that says 2026 World Cup qualifier. Musa returns as Chile picks 39 players for Zimbabwe-Rwanda clash. And that's just about the stories we have here on the Vanguard newspaper. You go out there and get yourself a copy of the paper this morning. The next paper is This Day newspaper.
All right, let's go ahead and bring you these day headlines now and see real quick what we have on the front page of This Day. Coming right. Yes, that's This Day for you. The first one above the name plate of This Day says over $3 trillion wiped off U.S. talks as new tariffs wars with China, Canada, Mexico begin. We're seeing this real economic war between America on the one hand and these other 3 nations, starting with their immediate neighbor, Canada, and then of course the other neighbor on the other hand, which is Mexico. And these are 2 very strategic trade partners to the United States, especially in that North American strip. And then you move all the way far into Asia. There's China. Mexico has not announced a retaliatory trade tariff yet. They're saying it's yet to be announced. Canada has said, look, President Trump is imposing a 25% tariff on us. We are doing the same thing. We're imposing 25% tariff on the U.S., on U.S. goods. And China says, well, we can be a little lenient. These are my words anyway. Let's do 15%. So it's a 25% tariff against 15%
tariff.
Exactly. And even the president, as well as senior members of the Republican Party, have acknowledged that, look, quite frankly, Americans will pay the price in the short term. But in the final analysis, they'll be better for it. The economy will become stronger and what have you. By the way, President Trump addressed a combined session of Congress in the early hours of today. That's of course in Nigeria, which was at about dinner time in the US. We'll walk you through what the highlights of that address is, because it was the Senate and the House combined. We see how ranking senators and members of the House have rallied around President Trump, that endorsed all of his policies. They say he's on track, that he's restoring America, and so on and so forth. And Ukraine is very big in all of this, but time will fail us to go into all of those details right now. But there are two riders with that headline. The first one says, Commerce Secretary Trump willing to shift ground if impacted countries do more. So what more should they do? The second writer tells us, Zelensky says Ukraine ready to return to negotiating table, calls Oval Office spats regrettable. And then that leads us to other headlines on the front page of this day. Says police ex-NIS CG Paradang died in hotel room, not killed by kidnappers. Obviously, the police here are trying to set the record straight because we had seen a story that claimed that he died in the hands of kidnappers. Now, a different version of the report is telling Nigerians and everyone else who cares to read that he actually passed away in a hotel room. But the man has passed on. That's the bottom line. Then what else? The Star story here says, Bauchi 2027 and ready to serve, says Health Minister Ali Pate. Well, maybe enough of appointments. Now time to be elected. Let's see, 2027 is around the corner. We'll resist any forceful attempt to impeach Fubara. INC, IYC, warn Assembly. And that's headline has almost half a dozen riders. One tells us, condemn Supreme Court verdict. Frank alleges ploy to doctor judgments. We've taken verdicts in good faith, says AA. 2015 chairman threatened to occupy councils. Governor, our people will suffer no more loss. Well, that sounds patriotic and popular to say, but then that will be our last paper on the program this morning. We'll take a quick break at this point, everyone. When we return, we'll chit-chat a little about developing stories, and that will lead us to the top of the hour, where we get to bring you the Global AM News. Do stay with us.
That global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world.
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews, latest news with experts on key global issues,
and at the same time keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Money.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world.
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper